The sun was just beginning to rise over Waterton town. Dr. Jai-Ho Park stood by his wooden cabin window, looking at the mountains in the distance. He held his favorite blue coffee cup in his hands, enjoying its warmth. The morning mist moved slowly through the trees, like a gentle river of white clouds. Jai-Ho was the town's plant doctor, or botanist as most people called him. He loved studying the plants that grew along the Waterton Trail. Every morning, he would walk this special path, writing notes about the flowers and trees he found. Today felt different, though. There was something magical in the air. As he put on his old brown hiking boots, Jai-Ho heard a knock at his door. It was Hae-Newell Lee, his young student who was always eager to learn. Hae-Newell had moved to Waterton 6 months ago to study with Jai-Ho. She wanted to learn about plants that could help people feel better. "Good morning, Dr. Park," Hae-Newell said with a bright smile. She was carrying her green backpack, filled with empty notebooks and small bags for collecting plant samples. "The weather is perfect today. The mist makes everything look like a painting." Jai-Ho smiled back. "Indeed it does, Hae-Newell. Did you bring the special camera? Today we might find those night-blooming flowers I told you about." Together, they walked down the path that led from Jai-Ho's cabin to the start of the Waterton Trail. The morning air was cool and fresh. Birds were singing their morning songs in the trees above. Every few steps, Jai-Ho would stop and point out something interesting to Hae-Newell. "Look there," he said, pointing to some small white flowers growing between the rocks. "Those are moon pearls. They only grow in places where the morning mist touches them every day. The old stories say they can help people sleep better." Hae-Newell wrote everything down in her notebook. She loved how Jai-Ho knew the story behind every plant they found. It wasn't just science to him. It was like each plant had its own special story to tell. As they walked further along the trail, they saw something unusual. Near a big old oak tree, there were some plants Jai-Ho had never seen before. They had leaves that seemed to change color as the mist moved around them. First they looked blue, then purple, then a soft silver. "In all my years on this trail," Jai-Ho said quietly, "I have never seen anything like this." He carefully took out his small notebook, the one he had been writing in for 20 years. His hands were shaking a little with excitement as he drew the strange plants. Hae-Newell took pictures and collected a few fallen leaves to study later. She noticed how the leaves felt warm to touch, even though the morning was cool. "Dr. Park, do you think these plants might have healing powers too?" Jai-Ho looked thoughtful. "Nature always has new secrets to share with us. Hae-Newell, that's why we must walk these trails with open eyes and gentle hearts. Every plant, every flower has something to teach us, if we're patient enough to learn." The mist was starting to lift now, but it left behind tiny drops of water on every leaf and flower. In the early morning light, the whole trail looked like it was covered in small diamonds. Jai-Ho and Hae-Newell continued their walk, knowing this was just the beginning of another amazing day on the Waterton Trail. Even after all these years, the trail still had new wonders to show them. As they walked deeper into the forest, both teacher and student felt grateful to be part of this peaceful morning adventure. The day was just beginning, and already it felt like magic was in the air. The morning sun now touched the surface of Lake Waterton, making the water sparkle like thousands of tiny stars. Jai-Ho and Hae-Newell reached the lake's edge, where the main trail began. The water was so clear that they could see small fish swimming near the shore, their scales catching the light. As they stood there, they heard friendly footsteps coming from the park ranger's cabin. Na-Yum Kim, the trail's guardian for the past 15 years, walked toward them with her usual warm smile. She carried her old wooden walking stick, which had marks for measuring snow depth in winter. "Welcome to another beautiful morning," Na-Yum said, adjusting her ranger hat. "The trail has been extra peaceful today. I saw a family of deer drinking from the lake just before sunrise." Hae-Newell's eyes lit up. "Really? Were they near the healing plants we found earlier?" Na-Yum looked interested. Healing plants. My grandmother used to tell me stories about special plants that only grow where deer rest. The old people of this land believed that deer could sense places with healing power. Jaiho took out his notebook and showed Naeum their discovery. As she looked at his drawings, her eyes grew wide. In all my years watching this trail, I've never seen these before, but there's an old story that might help us understand them. They sat on smooth rocks by the lake's edge as Naeum told her story. The morning breeze carried the scent of pine trees and fresh water. Long ago, Naeum began. When this land was young, the first people here noticed that sick animals would always walk certain paths to get better. They followed these paths and found special plants that could heal. They called this the Spirit Trail, and what we now call the Waterton Trail follows the same path. Hamnul wrote everything in her notebook while Jaiho listened carefully. The story reminded him of something he had read in old botanical books. The first people learned to read the signs of nature. Naeum continued. They said that new healing plants would appear when they were most needed. They would often show up after the morning mist, just like your discovery today. A pair of butterflies danced around them as they talked, their wings catching the sunlight. The lake water made soft, peaceful sounds as small waves touched the shore. Would you like to see something special? Naeum asked, standing up. There's a hidden path that not many people know about. It might help us understand more about these new plants. Jaiho and Haenul followed Naeum as she led them to a narrow path hidden behind some tall grass. The path was marked with very old stone circles, each one holding different colored moss. These stone circles are markers, Naeum explained. The first people placed them here to show where the healing energy was strongest. Notice how the morning light touches each stone in a special way. As they walked this secret path, they saw more of the color-changing plants they had found earlier. They grew in perfect circles around the old stone markers. This can't be just chance, Jaiho said softly. These plants are growing exactly where the ancient healers said the ground had special powers. Hanul touched one of the stone markers gently. It feels warm, she said with surprise, just like the leaves we found. Naeum nodded. The trail is sharing its secrets with us today. Sometimes it waits years to show such wonders. It's as if the old magic is waking up again. They stood there in peaceful silence, feeling the gentle warmth of the morning sun and watching the mist slowly fade away. The lake behind them reflected the mountains like a perfect mirror, making it seem like there were two worlds meeting at the water's edge. This was just the beginning of their path today. But already they knew this would be a very special journey on the Waterton Trail. Following the ancient stone markers, Jaiho, Hamnul, and Naeum came to a place where the trees grew closer together. The sunlight filtered through the leaves, creating patterns on the ground that looked like lace. The air here felt different, carrying a sweet smell that reminded them of honey and fresh herbs. Through the trees, they saw smoke rising in thin, silver streams. It came from a small wooden house that seemed to grow right out of the hillside. Around the house was a garden unlike any they had seen before. Plants of every color grew in perfect circles, following the same pattern as the stone markers they had passed. An elderly woman was working in the garden. This was Su Min Choi, known to everyone as the keeper of the hidden grove. She looked up as they approached, her face brightening with a gentle smile. Her silver hair was tied back with a simple ribbon, and her hands were stained green from working with plants. I was wondering when you would find your way here, Su Min said, standing up slowly. The morning mist told me to expect visitors today. Jaiho looked surprised. You knew we were coming. Su Min nodded, brushing soil from her apron. The new plants you found this morning are speaking to many of us who know how to listen. They have been waiting for the right time to show themselves. She led them through her garden, pointing out plants that had been growing there for generations. Each plant had its own story, its own purpose. Some helped people sleep, others eased pain, and some brought peace to troubled minds. But these new plants, Su Min said, touching one of the color-changing leaves, they are different. They carry old magic that hasn't been seen in many years. Newell took out her notebook. Can you tell us more about this old magic? Su Min walked to a wooden bench near her house and sat down. The others joined her, feeling the peaceful energy of the grove surrounding them. Long ago, she began, when the world moved more slowly, plants and people spoke the same language. The plants would tell us what they could do, how they could help. But as the world got faster and louder, most people forgot how to listen. She reached into her pocket and pulled out some dried leaves that looked like the ones they had found. These grew here once before, when I was very young. My grandmother called them rainbow healers because their colors would change to show what kind of help someone needed. Naeun leaned forward. Is that why they appeared today? Because someone needs help. Su Min smiled mysteriously. The trail knows what we need, sometimes before we do. These plants appear when the world needs more peace, more healing. They show us that magic still exists in quiet places, if we take time to look for it. She stood up and walked to a small herb bed near her house. With careful hands, she picked some leaves and flowers, placing them in a wooden bowl. Would you like to learn how to make tea the old way? It might help us understand what the new plants are trying to tell us. They gathered around Su Min's small outdoor stove, watching as she added water to the bowl and warmed it slowly. The steam carried different colors, just like the leaves they had found earlier. The plants are happy, Su Min said softly. They'd been waiting a long time for people who would understand their message. The trail brought you here today because you were ready to listen. As they sat drinking the tea, they felt a deep sense of peace settle over them. The hidden grove seemed to glow with a soft light, and the plants around them swayed gently in a breeze they couldn't feel. They knew they had found something very special, something that would change their understanding of the Waterton Trail forever. But this was just the beginning of what the trail had to show them. The afternoon sun made the lake waters shine like polished glass. After leaving Su Min's hidden grove, Jiaho, Newell, and Naeun walked down to the lake's edge. The peaceful morning had turned into an even more beautiful afternoon. Near the water, they saw a man sitting very still. He held a large camera in his hands. This was young Ho Kang, who had spent 20 years taking pictures of the Waterton Trail. He turned when he heard them approach, putting a finger to his lips and pointing toward some tall grass near the water. In the grass, a family of white birds was building a nest. The birds had long, graceful necks and feathers that seemed to change color in the light. Young Ho's camera made soft clicking sounds as he took pictures. These birds only come here once every few years, Young Ho whispered when the birds had moved away. But this year is different. They arrived on the same morning those special plants appeared. Newell looked surprised. You've seen the color-changing plants too. Young Ho nodded, reaching for his camera bag. He took out some photographs and showed them to the group. The pictures showed the same plants they had found, but taken at different times of day. In each picture, the plants looked different. I've been watching them through my lens, Young Ho explained. They change colors depending on who is near them. When the deer come, they turn silver. When the healing birds are close, they become gold. I've never seen anything like it. Jiaho studied the photographs carefully. These pictures could help us understand how the plants work. Would you share them with us? Young Ho smiled. That's why I'm here today. I've been waiting for the right people to share them with. The trail has a way of bringing people together when they need to meet. He showed them more photographs from his collection. There were pictures of the trail through all 4 seasons, spring flowers covered in morning dew, summer trees full of life, autumn leaves in bright colors, and winter snow making everything peaceful and white. But look at these, Young Ho said, pulling out some special pictures. I took these last week, just before the new plants appeared. The photographs showed strange lights moving through the morning mist. They looked like tiny stars floating above the ground, following the path of the old stone markers. The lights appeared every morning for a week, Young Ho explained. Then, on the day the plants grew, the lights came down and touched the earth. That's where we found the first color-changing leaves. Na-young touched one of the pictures gently. This is just like the old stories. They say that when nature wants to heal the world, it sends signs first. The lights in these pictures must have been those signs. Hanul wrote everything in her notebook, while Jaiho and Youngho talked about the best times to watch the plants change color. The afternoon light made long shadows on the ground, and the lake water lapped softly at the shore. "Would you like to see something really special?" Youngho asked. "There's a place up ahead where the light hits the water in an amazing way. If we're lucky, we might see the rainbow pools." They all agreed to go, feeling that the trail was leading them to discover more of its secrets. As they walked, Youngho told them stories about all the wonderful things he had photographed over the years. Each picture had helped him understand the trail's magic a little better. The afternoon was getting late, but none of them felt tired. There were still more wonders to see on the Waterton Trail. The group walked until they reached an ancient stone bridge that crossed over a gentle stream. The bridge looked like it had grown from the earth itself, with smooth stones fitted together so perfectly that no summit was needed to hold them in place. Soft green moss grew between the stones, making patterns that looked like stars. Near the bridge, they saw someone carefully examining the rocks with special tools. This was Myra Song, the geologist who had studied the trail's unusual rock formations for many years. She looked up as they approached, her eyes bright with excitement. "You've arrived at just the right time," Myra said, putting down her tools. "The stones are singing today." Hanul looked confused. "Singing? How can stones sing?" Myra took a small device from her pocket and placed it on the bridge. The device showed waves moving up and down on its screen. A soft, gentle sound came from it, like distant wind chimes. "This bridge was built hundreds of years ago," Myra explained. "The stones were chosen not just for their strength, but for the way they carry sound. When the wind blows just right, or when the stream below hits certain rocks, the bridge makes music." Youngho set up his camera to record while Myra showed them different spots on the bridge. Each stone made a different note when she touched it gently with her special tools. "But today is special," Myra said. "Ever since those new plants appeared, the bridge has been making music on its own. It's like the stones are trying to tell us something." Jaiho took out the color-changing leaves they had collected. As he held them near the bridge, the leaves turned a deep purple color, and the singing of the stones grew louder. "The old stories talk about this," Na-young said softly. "They say that when the healing plants return, even the stones will wake up and share their ancient memories." Myra nodded. "The rocks here are different from any others I've studied. They contain unusual crystals that seem to respond to the plants. It's as if the whole trail is connected through these stones." She showed them her notebooks, filled with drawings of crystal patterns and musical notes. Each page showed how the bridge's song had changed over the years. "Look at these readings from this morning," Myra said, pointing to her latest notes. "The vibrations are matching the growth pattern of the new plants perfectly. It's like they're dancing together." Hanul placed her hand on one of the stones. She could feel a gentle warmth and a slight trembling, like a heartbeat. "It feels alive," she whispered. "That's because it is, in its own way," Myra explained. "These stones have been here so long, they've become part of the trail's spirit. They remember all the people who have crossed this bridge seeking healing." The afternoon light filtered through the leaves above them, making shadows dance on the bridge's surface. The stream below sang its own song, joining with the music of the stones. "There's more," Myra said, leading them to the center of the bridge. "When the sun starts to set, the crystals in these stones catch the light in an amazing way. If we stay a little longer, you'll see something wonderful." They all agreed to wait, feeling that they were about to witness another of the trail's magical moments. The stone bridge had protected travelers for hundreds of years, and now it was sharing its secrets with them. As the afternoon light began to soften, the group met Ta Wu Quan near the stone bridge. He was the town's weather expert, standing with his special instruments that measured wind and temperature. His calm face showed excitement as he looked at the readings on his devices. The air pressure is changing in a way I've never seen before, Ta Wu said, showing them his weather station screen. It's creating perfect conditions for something remarkable. Ray's stone bridge was still singing its gentle song as Ta Wu explained what was happening. The air around them felt different, not cold or warm, but perfectly balanced, like nature itself was taking a peaceful breath. These conditions usually happen once or twice a year, Ta Wu continued. But since those new plants appeared, we've had these perfect evenings every day. It's as if the trail is making its own weather. He showed them a map on his tablet where different colors showed the temperature patterns around the trail. The colors made a spiral shape with the trail at its center. The spiral moved slowly, like a gentle whirlpool in the air. "Watch this," Ta Wu said, taking the small bottle of soap bubbles from his pocket. He blew some bubbles into the air, and instead of popping or floating away, they danced in circles, following the spiral pattern on his map. Hanul wrote in her notebook while Jai-ho and Naeyoung watched the bubbles with wonder. Young-ho took pictures of the strange sight, his camera clicking softly in the evening quiet. The bubbles are touching all the places where we found the color-changing plants, Naeyoung noticed. They're following the old stone markers too. Ta Wu nodded. The air currents are making a path, just like the one the first people found. It's showing us the trail's true shape, not just on the ground, but in the air too. As they watched, a gentle breeze carried the scent of the healing plants. The color-changing leaves they had collected began to glow softly in the evening light, matching the colors of the sunset starting to paint the sky. "There's something else," Ta Wu said, checking his instruments again. "The temperature and humidity are perfect for seeing the evening mist. It's different from the morning mist. Some say it shows visions of the past." The air grew still, and thin streams of silvery mist began to rise from the ground. The mist moved like gentle waves, carrying tiny spots of light that looked like stars floating in the air. "Those lights," Young-ho said softly, "they're just like the ones in my photographs." The group stood quietly, watching as the mist formed shapes in the air. Sometimes they thought they saw figures walking on the trail, like memories of all the people who had walked there before them. "The trail is showing us its story," Ta Wu explained. "When all the conditions are perfect like this, we can see how special this place truly is." The evening light turned golden, making everything look magical. The stone bridge's song grew softer, blending with the peaceful sounds of birds getting ready for night. Even the color-changing plants seemed to be settling down, their leaves turning soft shades of blue and silver. They all knew they were seeing something few people had ever witnessed. The Waterton Trail was sharing its deepest secrets with them, showing them how everything in nature works together in perfect harmony. The sun began to set over Waterton Trail, painting the sky in beautiful colors of orange and purple. The group made their way to an old clearing where a stone circle marked the traditional gathering place. Here, they found Hai Jin-yoon, the town's historian, setting up lanterns around the circle. "Welcome, friends," Hai Jin said warmly. "I had a feeling you would all come here tonight." She was arranging old books and maps on a smooth stone that served as a natural table. The lanterns cast a soft, golden light that made the clearing feel magical. "These records go back hundreds of years," Hai Jin explained, carefully opening one of the oldest books. "They tell us about other times when the healing plants appeared on the trail. Each time, they came when people needed them most." The group sat on the stone benches that formed a circle. The evening mist that Ta Wu had predicted now floated gently around their feet, and the color-changing plants glowed softly in the fading light. According to these writings, Hai Jin continued, the plants last appeared 50 years ago, during a time when people had become too busy to listen to nature. They helped remind everyone to slow down and find peace in the quiet places. Hanul looked at her notes from the day. "Just like now," she said thoughtfully. "People today are always rushing, always looking at screens. Maybe that's why the plants have returned." Hai Jin nodded, turning to another page in her book. The old stories say that the trail chooses special times to reveal its magic. It waits until it finds people who are ready to understand its message and share it with others. The historian showed them drawings from different times in history. Each picture showed the same things they had seen today: the color-changing plants, the lights in the mist, and people gathering to learn from nature's wisdom. "But look at this," Hai-Jin said, pointing to a map that showed the trail from above. "The path we walked today follows the same pattern as the lights Yum-Ho photographed. It's also the same as the weather spiral that Tai-Wu showed us." Jai-Ho studied the map carefully. "And these marks here," he said, "they match exactly where we found the new plants growing. The trail is like a book written on the land," Hai-Jin explained. "Every rock, every plant, every turn in the path tells part of its story. Today, you've all helped read different parts of that story." As the sun touched the horizon, something magical happened. All the lanterns around the circle began to glow with different colors, matching the colors of the healing plants. The stone bridge's gentle song could be heard in the distance, and the evening mist formed shapes that looked like the figures in Hai-Jin's old drawings. "This is what the old writings call the sunset gathering," Hai-Jin said softly. "It happens when all the trail's magic comes together in perfect harmony. The last time anyone saw this was 50 years ago, on the day the healing plants last appeared." They sat in peaceful silence, watching as nature put on its beautiful show. The day's discoveries now made sense in a deeper way. Each person had found a different piece of the trail's mystery, and together they understood its complete story. The stars began to appear in the darkening sky as the group made their way back to Jai-Ho's cabin. The path was lit by the soft glow of the color-changing plants, which now shimmered with a gentle silver light that matched the starlight above. Their day of discovery on the Waterton Trail was coming to a peaceful end. Jai-Ho's cabin looked warm and welcoming in the evening darkness. Smoke rose from the chimney in gentle curls, and light glowed softly from the windows. Inside, they found that Su-Min had arrived before them, already preparing a special tea with herbs from her garden. "The trail has shared so many of its secrets with you today," Su-Min said as she poured the tea into ceramic cups that seemed to glow from within. "Now it's time to understand what these gifts mean for all of us." They sat in a circle in Jai-Ho's comfortable living room. The teacups released small clouds of colored steam that danced in the air like the morning mist they had seen at the start of their journey. Each person's tea showed different colors, matching the shades of the healing plants they had discovered. "Notice how each cup shows different colors," Su-Min explained. "The tea knows what each person needs, just like the plants on the trail. This is the old magic working in a new way." Yum-Ho looked through the photographs he had taken during the day. The images seemed to tell a story: the morning discovery of the plants, the singing bridge, the weather patterns, and the sunset gathering. Each picture captured a piece of the trail's magic. "The trail has been waiting for the right moment to show itself," Ne-Young said, looking at the pictures. "It chose today because we were all ready to see it in our own ways." Mi-Ray placed her instruments on Jai-Ho's table. The readings from the stone bridge were still showing gentle waves of sound, but now they matched the rhythm of their heartbeats perfectly. "The bridge is singing in harmony with us," she said softly. "It's like the whole trail is breathing with us now." Tai-Wu checked his weather readings one last time. "The perfect conditions will continue," he said with a smile. "The trail has created its own peaceful weather pattern that will stay with us." Hai-Jin opened her old books on Jai-Ho's table, next to Hae-Newell's notebook full of the day's observations. The ancient drawings and the new notes showed the same patterns, the same discoveries, just seen through different eyes. "This is why the healing plants returned," Hai-Jin said. "They're teaching us to see the magic that was always here, waiting to be found. Each of us saw it in our own way, through science, through history, through nature itself." As they finished their tea, they felt a deep sense of peace settle over them. The color-changing plants they had collected now glowed with all the colors they had shown throughout the day, as if celebrating with them. "Remember," Su-Min said as the evening drew to a close, The trail's magic doesn't end here. It will continue to share its wisdom with anyone who walks its path with an open heart and quiet mind. Outside, the night was clear and calm. The stars reflected in Lake Waterton's still waters, making it seem like the trail existed between two star-filled skies. The gentle song of the stone bridge could still be heard in the distance, singing the trail's endless story. They knew that tomorrow, and every day after, the Waterton Trail would continue to share its healing magic with those who needed it most. Their journey had shown them that the most wonderful magic lies in taking time to listen to nature's quiet voice and finding peace in its gentle embrace.